If you don't mind, I'm going to rant for a few minutes here about why I hate the iPhone and the Android phones so much. Now, I don't want to be misleading. I do, in fact, love these phones. I love the technology. I love the things that you can do with them. But I just get so irritated at these devices, and it's not necessarily the device's fault, it's the manufacturer's fault, and just the way that they allow you to work amongst other technology. There's so many ways that some of them work in amazing ways, and then so many limitations at the same time. I just want something that does everything that I need it to do, and I can't find that in just an iPhone or just an Android phone. Now, I had the very first iPhone. I've had every single iPhone released. Of course, I haven't bought like a 7 and a 7S. Sometimes I bought a 7 or a 7S and not, like went with either the small one or the bigger one. I haven't owned every single phone, but I've owned every generation of iPhone. I've owned every generation of Galaxy phone. I've owned probably over 100 Android phones. I would assume that it's close to that, and I haven't kept count, but I know that when I log into Audible on Android, it automatically names my phone and says like Jared's 85th Android device. So I know that I've had a lot of Android phones over the years. So I wanted to talk about these things that frustrate me, but they're also cool at the same time. I mean, they're super useful features, but they're frustrating. Some of these other things are just frustrating things about being on that specific platform. And I think some of you can relate. So definitely down in the comment section below, let me know what platform you are on. Are you an iPhone user? Are you an Android user? And what are some of the things that frustrate you? Even though you might love your iPhone or you might love your Android device, what are the frustrating things that just bug you, that it's like if they would just add that or fix that or make that better, it would just take it to that next level for you. So let's start with apps. The thing that really makes me mad is that people develop apps for the iPhone first. This doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes a developer will come out with an app for both the iPhone and the Android at the same time, but a majority of the time, the best apps come out for iPhone first. Take Fortnite, for example. I've been playing a lot of Fortnite with my kids. It's on iOS. It's nowhere to be seen on Android, and who knows when it's going to be released. They've been releasing it on other platforms, but not on Android. And so if you want to play Fortnite, you have to have an iPhone, or if you want to play it mobilely anyways, or I guess a Nintendo Switch. But right now, if you want to play it out and about, connected to an LTE network, you're going to need an iPhone. So apps typically come first, and sometimes even have a better experience on iOS than on Android. Now, of course, the gap there is it's slimmer than it's ever been. It's closing, but developers still will go after the iPhone first. And a lot of times it's because that's where their customers are. That's where their target market is. They're iPhone users as opposed to Android users. So it's frustrating. So apps, like I said, sometimes even work better on iOS. And that comes down to the fact that they just have to design and develop their app to work on one OS, on one version of an operating system, on one phone. They don't have to develop an app to work on Samsung's version of Android and on all these other versions of Android that are out there. There's so many. And so they have to kind of make something that's going to work across the board, so that way people can, regardless of what device they have, use their app. And that's a real bummer. I just wish that it wasn't such a convoluted mess over on the Android side. I see that maybe, Google is trying to kind of reel that in a little bit and make things a little more cohesive, taking some of that power away from phone manufacturers, heavily modifying their phone software, so that way the apps could be a more cohesive experience. But it's just still not there. A lot of times you just get that better cohesive experience in an iPhone with an app than you do on Android. It's definitely a smaller gap than it's ever been, so I know I could easily get ran over by some of you by saying that, but it still is a fact that the iPhone is easier to develop for, in the sense as you only have an iPhone to worry about. Maybe a couple of different screen sizes, but you have the same versions of iOS. Nothing is crazy modified. You don't have to worry about the weird things that, some other phone manufacturers do in their UI and the shape and size of their phones and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just simpler. On iOS, it's a pain in the butt to transfer files unless you're transferring them to other iOS devices. Transferring a file from my iPhone to my iPad, or if I have a Mac computer, super easy using AirDrop. AirDrop is fantastic. I absolutely love it. But transferring files if you're an iPhone user and a Windows computer user is a nightmare. You connect your phone using a cable to your device, to your computer, and half the time in the middle of a file transfer, something disconnects, something goes wrong, something doesn't work right, or maybe your phone doesn't even show up for like 5 minutes. There's just so many weird inconsistencies. And then if you want to copy a file to your phone, you still have to open up iTunes, find an app that supports file transfer, and drop the file in there like it's 10 years ago. I mean, that just should not happen. Of course, there are apps you can use like Send Anywhere and, Dropbox and stuff like that, but you have to wait for them to upload, uses your internet connection, then you have to download them to your phone, and it's just not as easy of a process as, say, AirDrop is amongst iOS devices. So it's a real pain in the butt when trying to use your iPhone to transfer files to something that's not a Mac product. So sending files to and from, big pain in the butt. Of course, on Android, they solve that by making it much easier to connect your device to any other device. I know with my Galaxy S9 here, I could plug a hard drive into the bottom of it and access anything that's on that hard drive. I could save files to that. It has a micro SD card in here, so I could pop that card out, put it into my computer and transfer files. I could transfer files onto that card, put it in my phone, and then have those files already on my phone. I could plug in pretty much any device that has mass storage capability into my S9 Plus and copy files over to it. It's fantastic. The iPhone, not so much. Much more limitations there. You need their dongles to do certain things. Plugging a camera directly into it isn't necessarily going to work. They want you to buy the little camera connection dongle, put the SD card in. Then, of course, if you have different types of cards, like flash cards, like CF cards, bigger ones, you're going to have issues connecting there. You're going to need dongles. You're going to need adapters. Maybe there isn't enough power to support the whole thing. It's just an endless pain in the butt of trying to get things onto your iPhone because we're using social media apps, sharing stuff online, different communication platforms. We need our files to move, and it's very hard to do that when you're on iOS. It's less hard to do that on Android. It's still not a perfect process, but at least you can do it there. The iPhones are still super expensive. They charge a premium for them. It's something to be kind of pissed off about at times because there are so many limitations. I just don't like having to pay more for less capability. Like, it's fine if you play in the Apple ecosystem, but if you try to do anything else, it becomes a problem. Paying a premium price for that is kind of annoying. So with Android, I mean, of course, it works on all different platforms, but the ecosystem just isn't there. And so with a cohesive experience between phone, computer, and tablet, you only really have that on an iPhone. No other phone manufacturer offers that. Samsung has their own app to connect to your phone that you could put on your computer, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to use. It's kind of not super user friendly. It essentially makes your phone show up on your computer so you can use a mouse and click around. It's not the experience that most of us would really need. And so there's just no ecosystem. If you're wanting to use a tablet with an Android phone, there's no AirDrop. There's no simple way to do things. You're going to need extra apps for that. It's going to slow down your process. You might need to take your micro SD card out of one device and put it in the other. There's just issues there. It just doesn't work as well. The ecosystem isn't there. And I know that that's a thing that Android people get annoyed about, is Apple people talking about the ecosystem, but it's a true fact, and it makes me mad that these other manufacturers like Samsung haven't figured it out. They haven't figured out a way to make it cohesive without having to have one app so that you can text message from your computer, another app so you can transfer files wirelessly, another app so that you can do these other things. It's a real pain in the butt. So another thing that makes me mad is just how locked down the iPhone is. It goes to the whole thing where if you're going to charge a premium for your device, give us a little bit more here. The iPhone is so locked down. We have had NFC technology for so long, yet you can still only use NFC on the iPhone for Apple Pay. Essentially, Apple's like, yeah, we'll give you NFC, but you don't get to use it for anything unless we say so. And that kind of sucks because I love being able to tap my phone to my camera, my actual camera, transfer files. I love Samsung Pay, fantastic. Samsung Pay is a simple technology that Samsung has figured out that iPhone, the Apple could have that. Apple Pay could be so much easier and better supported amongst all different places that we spend money in our world, yet they haven't done anything like that. Another thing that frustrates me is that the smartwatch experience is better on iOS. You have more app support, you have more app functionality. Apps are created specifically for the watch instead of just making like some little minor function work on a Wear OS app. Of course, that's getting better, and I know that there's going to be a lot of things coming to change this year with Google renaming Android Wear to Wear OS by Google, trying to make it a truly cross-platform solution to compete with the Apple Watch. Yes. There's lots of changes, and so I feel we are in a transitional time here, but I still get so frustrated because the Apple Watch is good, but you can't use it anywhere else. Android watches are good too, or Wear OS watches, but they're just not getting that many updates. There aren't that many cool features. There's very few that have LTE support. There's very few that have like good features that you would want in your watch, in your Wear OS watch. Yes, there's basic features, but how useful are they over getting something like a fitness tracker, a standard fitness tracker? So with that said, like the smartwatch experience kind of frustrates me because I feel like there's so much room to grow and expand there. And the only thing that I think stands out on the Apple Watch is the better app support. And then with the AirPods, being able to like have your AirPods, they'll automatically connect to your watch, they'll automatically connect to your phone. So that Bluetooth music listening experience is fantastic. But then they go ahead and lock down the music apps that you can actually use. Of course, they're changing that and they're opening it up. So we're going to be able to listen to Spotify and stuff like that through the Apple Watch. But it has for the longest time been locked down to Apple's music subscription service only. Super, super frustrating. So another annoying thing about Android is that the software updates aren't as frequent on the software itself. With an iPhone, you know that if you have a relatively recent iPhone, even I guess all the way back to an iPhone 5S, you're going to get the latest version of the operating system and get as many features as your hardware will support. Sure, those older phones are going to be slowing down quite a bit with the newer OS on them, but Apple's still supporting them. So that's many, many years of support, which you're not going to get on pretty much any Android phone. I think unless you buy like a device straight from Google and buy like a Pixel or one of the old Nexus phones, they still support some of those ones. But nonetheless, like Samsung, they're not going to support, you're not going to get, newest versions of software on this S9 for the next 4 or 5 years. I'll be lucky if I get more than one of the next year's updates, and then it just kind of hits a brick wall. And you might see security patches for a few years or a few months, and then that's it. There's just not as much support there. And it's a per manufacturer thing. Some manufacturers do better than this than others. But the fact of the matter is that if you're going to keep a phone for a number of years, your Android phone is going to quickly become more outdated as far as software goes, and there's vulnerabilities there. When they stop supporting it altogether, there's issues there. An iPhone, at least you know that if you bought an iPhone 10 today, for the next probably 4 or 5 years, you're going to have supported iOS updates that are going to cover security and all that stuff, and you're going to be much safer at the end of your phone's life, and that lifespan is going to be even longer. So super frustrating thing to me with Android, and I get it because Android is such a convoluted kind of mess as far as the operating system goes. Android itself is very straightforward and great, and it's unique and direct from Google, the way that it comes from Google, but all of the flavors that everybody adds on top of it definitely adds complexity, it adds overhead. A new version of a phone comes out, Samsung isn't selling any more of those, a couple years down the road, so why are they going to continue to produce updates for them for that long period of time, or want to give you the latest and greatest features of that software. So it's a frustrating thing to me. And so that kind of plays into the shorter device support life cycle. Some phones get a longer life cycle than others, but considering the premium price on some of these Android phones, I feel like it should last much longer than that. So why can't iOS and Android just work well in all common situations? Why are there things that obviously are shut down or blocked or not included to create a stumbling block, a frustration block that would get you maybe more interested in going in another direction? I guess I understand why Apple does it, because they want you to be on an iPhone, an iPad, an Apple Watch, a Mac laptop, a Mac desktop, an Apple TV. They've got the whole suite of products there. But with Android, I think, and Samsung and a lot LG and all these other manufacturers, I feel like they should better support the gamut of things. And then Apple shouldn't shoehorn you into just, being well supported on their own platform. Many people will be using Windows computers forever because of their job or whatever it is. It's never going to support an Apple computer. That's just going to happen. And so why not make it a little bit easier for those of us that have to exist on Windows until Apple's actually going to build a decent computer that's well priced, that can render video at a reasonable rate? I'm not going to be switching back to an Apple computer. I've got way more horsepower in a $4,000 PC than I would have in a $10,000 Mac. And I just can't justify spending that kind of money just so that I can have the cohesive ecosystem. So there's issues. I wanted to rant about this because I know it's frustrating, and I know some of you probably are frustrated just like me. So share your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them. What frustrates you about the different platforms of your choices, whether it's iPhone or Android? I don't want the comment section to turn into a battle between iOS and Android. I just want to look at everything that we want to try to achieve with our devices and just voice our frustrations about what we're not able to achieve based on the device of our choice. So thanks for sitting through this rant. I hope that it was enjoyable and that sometimes it's fun and therapeutic just to rant about this stuff with other people who care about it. So if that's you, definitely at least say hi down in the comment section below so I know that I'm not alone. Click on that subscribe button if you like this video and the thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and make sure to check out some of the other stuff we have going on here on State of Tech. We have some giveaways coming up soon on our Instagram account. We're going to be doing some cool things with Instagram, with IGTV, so make sure to head on over to Instagram and follow us at State of Tech. Until next time, take care.